While that's prepping, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. And I'm sorry I messed up Dottie's name. It's Heffelfinger. I know I probably jack up her name every time I say it. I say it so fast. I think I tongue tie myself, but sorry, Dottie. All right, so we are going to get started here today. Go ahead and get you guys rolling. Can someone confirm that you can see my screen?
I can see your screen.
Outstanding. Well,
We have
again,
other guests also in the box, so yeah, they can see it.
outstanding. Well, again, thank each and every one of you for joining us today. This is a major program in the advancement of our soldiers, and not only for what they're able to do while they're still serving in the military, but what they're going to bring to the civilian sector once they separate from the military. So, providing them with the necessary skill sets and industry recognized credentials and licensures, we hope to make them more effective on day one once they enter the civilian workforce. And you are a huge part of that process. So thank you very much for joining us today and being a part of this. So we're going to go over two items with you today. We're going to go over the vendor memorandum of agreement that each of you would be required to sign if you're looking to be a part of the credentialing assistance program. And then we will go into the application process. So show you how the application goes and setting that up. I will let you know in the last 48 hours or so, there have been some changes to the system. That's one of the big things while the system is down right now. They're in the process of bringing us some great new tools that we can use. So this training that I give you today will change a little bit as far as what you're required to do on your onboarding process, but it'll make the process a lot easier for you in the back end. So we're excited to see that. As soon as we're able to get some updated slides on that, we will send that out your way. All right, so let's get this started. All right, so again, we're going to go over the vendor memorandum of agreement first, the purpose of it, the regulation that guides the memo, the Army Regulation 621-5, as well as the Credentialing Assistance Program, and that's the Army Continuing Education System. Vendor requirements, administration of the CA program, installation MOAs, and at the end, signing that dotted line. So this document's intended to give you a more in-depth overview of the 6 different sections of the Memorandum of Agreement so that you have a better understanding. I see that we just had some more individuals come in. If you wouldn't mind, please make sure that your mic's on mute so we don't get any backfeed or anything there. Thanks, guys. All right. And at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we provide ways to advance our soldiers' personal education and career aspirations, preparing them for their futures, both while in uniform and once they transition out. So at the end of the day, we strengthen our nation and provide a well educated citizen back into the civilian work sector. The memorandum of agreement is guided by Army Regulation 621-5. That's the Army Continuing Education System dated 28 October 2019, and the Credentialing Assistance Policy dated 10 September 2020. Here's some links to both of those. And again, this will be available on the YouTube link, and we can send out the slides to those who need it as well. So let's talk a little bit about the MOA. Like I said, there's 6 different sections of it. There's a lot of legal talk in there. So the idea with this is to break it down a little bit so everyone understands what's required of them within that MOA. The MOA itself is not a document. When you sign it, you're good to go with everybody. You still are required to go to an installation to do an MOA with them if you're looking to gain access onto a post. And also, you're going to need to talk with the local education officer to make sure that you sign their MOA to be able to provide resources on post with the installation as well. So make sure you understand that there are two separate agreements. This MOA is just saying that you've done what's necessary to play ball with the Army CA program and to be a valid and approved vendor. Again, making sure that guidance is provided and complied with under the MOA and AR 621-5. Make sure that our vendors are following state and federal requirement laws regarding distance education. You're required to provide a POC. We made that step a little bit easier for you. Back in January, on the application process itself, it now gives you the opportunity to provide for a primary POC. That's the individual who you want the soldiers to contact. And for us, because if we have any issues, say you submit an application and it's rejected, it's going to be sent to the individual who's on that primary POC link. So make sure that's up to date. And again, we'll show you that on the application when we get over into that training. Next part, before recommending private student loans, vendors must provide soldiers access to financial aid advisors who can offer appropriate counseling. What we mean by this is we know that there are times where the training that you're offering may be more than the $4,000 that these soldiers receive every year. And we'll talk about phasing with that in just a little bit. But before you go and tell them, hey, go take out a personal loan or something like this, make sure there's someone there that can tell them about the other avenues that they have that may be more beneficial to them and less of a deficit in their bank account into their personal lifestyle, if you will, just to attend the course. No special favors. What we mean by this is you can't offer the soldier gratuity, discounts, entertainment, meals, transportation, hospitality, lodging, etc. If you do offer a military discount, and that is a standard practice for your training, exams, or a combination of the two, that is fine. But those other items, and especially this is one that we've seen in the past where lodging and entertainment have been included, that is a big no-no. So make sure that what you're offering the soldier is what's identified on the application, nothing more, nothing less. We expect each of our vendors that are working with us to maintain the highest level of integrity. This includes ensuring the ban of commissions, bonuses, or other incentive payments for securing seats using federal financial aid. We want to make sure that when you're using this program, you are doing it honestly, you are doing it to the best of what these soldiers can get, and that there's no hangups in the process. So there's no automatic program renewals, bundling multiple credential courses, and I'll go over that in a second, or enrollment. Each training course enrollment will be approved by the student and the Department of the Army prior to the start of the course. Now, we'll go over this a little more when we get on the application, but when I say bundling multiple credentials, that's the example of bundling items like the CompTIA, the CompTIA A+, Security Plus, trying to put all of those into one bundle. That's a big no-no. However, if you're bundling items such as the exam voucher, the training, the books, the study material, items like that, that's okay. And we'll show you in just a little bit how you can do that. Make sure you do not allow members to start a course without payment and authorization. We will tell you that there are times where the member will not be paid for it until the day of. And we found that because of items like continuing resolution, where the government hasn't released the budget for the year, we may be pushed down to the wire to when we can make a payment. However, our finance team is doing a phenomenal job right now getting our members paid for well in advance. So other than issues like continuing resolution, you should see payments for them at a pretty good pace. But again, if you have not received a payment for them, please don't allow them to start. So some of the vendor responsibilities and requirement. Full disclosure, we want you to make sure that all the costs and everything that's associated, what you're expecting that soldier to go through in order to complete that training and receive a certificate of completion is identified not only on your application when you create it in Army Ignited, but also on the itemized price quote that the soldier has to receive. Here's the deal with the itemized price quote. It is now a requirement for the soldiers to contact you and get an itemized price quote showing everything that you're expecting the Army to pay for on their behalf. Here's why. It shows proof that the soldier has reached out to you and made formal contact, and that you're aware that this soldier is interested in taking your training or taking an exam with your vendor. So make sure that you've had that communication between the two of you, and those two documents should match. Make sure that that full disclosure includes drop and add dates, withdrawal and readmission policies, as well as if a member has emergency leave, gets put on medical orders, uh, deployment items such as that. Make sure you lay that out and the member is fully aware of what they're getting into. The vendor will provide all information regarding enrollments, withdrawals, cancellations, completions, or failures, etc., to the Department of Army upon request. We will give you plenty of time in advance to have those items sent over to us. It's not going to be a, hey, we need this by close of business today. We're going to give you plenty of time for that. But we ask that all of those items be made available to us electronically upon request. Per Title 10 U.S. Code Section 1232G, also known as FERPA, states that the vendors will not release personally identifiable non-directory information, but are known as PII, to third parties without the authorization of the soldier. The soldier must agree to the release of their information prior to the approval of their enrollment. So the administration part of the CA, or credentialing program. The Department of the Army provides CA in accordance with the DA regulations. The vendors comply with these requirements for the return of CA funds. Now, when we talk about CA funds, if a soldier is looking to withdraw from a course and the course has not begun yet, they must submit a request to us to let us know that they're withdrawing from that course. If the soldier gets put on orders and they need to withdraw from a course that they've started, again, that soldier needs to contact us first and make sure that it's viable, the reason why they're looking to get out of this course. Here's why. All refunds will not be paid to the soldier. They have to come back to the Department of the Army. So our finance team will contact you and say, we've spoken with Soldier X. We have verified their reason. We see that they've started this course with you up to 60% of it we're requesting back, or soldier was recently contacted. They have to deploy. They're supposed to start a course with you next week. The Department of Army is requesting 100% refund for this soldier. Vendors will provide a policy, again, that 60% return policy. If a soldier comes to you and they start to take a course and they're a week or two into it and they decide, you know what, I'm just not liking this, I'm going to quit, and they don't have a valid reason, once it's reviewed on our end and we have not received their certificate of completion, that soldier will be responsible for reimbursing the program, not you. So again, they have to have a valid reason as to why they can no longer continue that course. It has to be vetted on our side first, and if approved, our finance team will contact you to request the refund. Costs charged to the soldiers will not differ or exceed that charged to non-military students. If you offer a military discount, we greatly appreciate that, and that is welcomed. But the cost will not exceed what the civilian sector is also paying for that same course. The annual review, we actually just completed our annual review process last week for our first full review that we've been able to do. That annual review took all the vendors that we currently have with us right now, and they were able to go through, update their cost, update any PLC changes or item like that, and then send it back over to us. From now on, they will not be able to review their application again until the following year. Around January, February 2022 is the next time we're going to do it, unless they're in the process of, say, implementing new courses, adding a new PLC, etc. They can send an email to us with at least 90 days prior to implementation, and request for those items to be submitted. Once we get that, we review it. We'll look over it. We'll let them know, yes, you can go ahead and submit for this, or no, you have to wait to your annual review. The vendor will provide immediate notification to the soldier of any cancellations for either distance learning or classroom courses. The soldier has 5 days to notify us about the cancellation. So as soon as you are made aware or know that a cancellation may occur for a course that's being held, please contact that soldier immediately so they can turn around and notify us. Vendors will not request payment for any materials or accessibility prior to confirmation of the improved enrollments through CA. So you can't tell a soldier you have to put down a deposit with us to be able to sit for this course, because one, the soldier's not going to get reimbursed, and two, that is against Army CA policy. So make sure when a soldier contacts you in that initial push to get an itemized quote and get some courses from you, that is them notifying you of their interest to pursue that course. And then once you receive payment, that's your guarantee to go ahead and allow them to proceed with the course. Excuse me. As we mentioned earlier, the MOAs are separate for the installation, for providing courses on base, and for the CA program. A installation MOA provides you the opportunity to come on post and excuse me. It allows you to come on post and provide information about your services. The MOA that you would fill out with the education office would allow you to provide courses on base, on post. The MOA for the CA program is just that. This is your understanding and agreement that you are authorized to be able to participate in the Army CA program. And once approved, soldiers will be able to see your company as a vendor that is eligible to receive funds for the CA program. Vendor services will need to be made available to eligible soldiers, DoD-funded civilians, eligible adult family members, DoD civilians, military retirees, etc. If you are offering this course on post and there's other individuals who fit the requirement to be able to sit for that course, even if they're not being paid for by Army CA, you have to make it available to where those individuals can participate in the course as well. And we'll need for you to provide a tentative annual schedule of course offerings to the education advisor that you're working with on each post to let them know what type of courses you're looking at hosting, when you're looking at hosting them. That way they can assist you with making sure the information is out there for the soldiers, that this course is coming, and that you're eligible to be there during those time frames. Okay. Need to make sure that you inform the responsible education advisor of any cancellations for classroom-based training, so they're aware and they don't hold up those spots in the event someone else needs it. Coordinate with that education advisor if there's any resources or needs for that classroom space, i.e. furnishing, repairs, janitorial services. If they're capable of offering that, they will let you know. Also, remember that the DA reserves the right to disapprove DoD installation access to any employee or agent of the vendor. We don't anticipate this ever happening, but in the event that it does, if there's an issue with a representative of your company while they're on base, they will be asked to leave the post. So, signing the MOA, there are two key important parts on the MOA that need your attention. The very first one is at the very top. It says this is an agreement between the Department of Army headquarters, and right after "and," your company's name needs to go right there. Then at the bottom of the MOA, you'll see where there's the opportunity on the left-hand side for you to sign the document, put your title. We request that an individual in your company's leadership signs this, i.e. your owner, your president, your director, etc. And then of course your agency's name will be there again, and you'll put the date down there. Please do not use DocuSign. If you need to, you're more than welcome to type in that information, including the individual's name. We will accept that, but we cannot accept DocuSign, as our leadership will not be able to sign the document on their lines. So we briefly hit over the vendor MOA, the purpose of it, the regulation that guides it, Army Regulation 621-5, vendor requirements, the administration of the CA program, installation MOAs, and signing the dotted lines. Before we go into the application process, do we have any questions from anyone?
We do have a question in the chat box. Sophia, were you going to answer Donna's question?
Yes, I'm answering it right now in the chat box.
Okay. And I think just the other question is, were the slides being presented sent an email? But we can send those out afterwards, right, Russell?
Absolutely. I'd be more than happy to send you guys these slides.
Oh, and then there's another question that I missed here. Is there a specific form or format for the itemized price quote?
So when you provide the price quote to the soldier, it needs to have your company's information, name, address, phone number, email address, URL, if available. It needs to have each item that the soldier is being provided for, i.e., if you are paying for books that you've put on your application, you'll put that on there, exam voucher, you'll put all that on there, and the total cost should add up to what you put on your application. Now, your application in Army Ignited will be a little bit different from that, and I'll show you that here in just a moment when we go through this process. But you want to make sure that when you do that itemized price quote, every individual item you've broken down the cost, and the total item on there, the total cost should match what we have on the application in Army Ignited. Did that answer your question? Did you get a response back there, Wendy?
Yes, she said thank you.
No worries. All right, so we will transition over to the application process. And like I said, there is a portion on here that I will skip over because that process has recently changed. So what we will do is once we get the new slides for that and redo the slideshow, we will make sure that we send that out to you so you have the up-to-date information. There's a lot of cool changes going on with the Army Ignited system right now while it's down. A lot of things that's going to make it a little more user-friendly for you to be able to communicate with us instead of having to go just straightly through email. So we'll update that information for you and provide that to you as soon as we possibly can. All right.
Hey, Russell,
Yes, ma'am.
can I just add one thing real quick?
Absolutely.
So Donna's asked some great questions about, credit bearing, non-credit bearing certificate programs. So though I answered her in the chat box, I wanted to make sure that everyone else, if you hadn't read it, credentialing assistance funds courses that lead soldiers to the exam, whether they're credit bearing or non-credit bearing courses, that's totally fine. We can fund any of them as long as they are courses, exams, materials, books, fees, that kind of thing, that will help lead that soldier get to that specific credential that you find in Army Corps. So that is something. But one thing I did want to point out, we do not fund certificate programs, right? So depending on, if you're an education institution and you might offer degrees or certificates, that's fine for the TA side, tuition assistance side, but on the CA side, we only fund specific courses that lead a soldier to that specific exam or credential, which means if you have several courses that lead them there and it happens to give them a certificate, then lucky them, they just got a certificate. However, when you're listing it in Army Corps, you're not listing certificate programs, you're listing individual courses, and that's how we view it because we do not fund certificate programs. I hope that made sense to all and to Donna as well. Thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, so we are going to jump over and talk about the application process now. All right, we're going to go over the invite that each one of you will receive or may have already received, the 4 different parts of the application process, keeping up with your application, and then how you help our soldiers and eventually the nation. So welcome to Army Ignited. This email that you see right here is pretty much exactly the format that you're going to see that you receive. It's going to give you how you go in and create your Army Ignited application. And again, we're going to fine tune this email as well to fit the new items that just popped up on the site that we're excited to release out to you. It's also got the information on there like Q&A, and there's information about creating a cage code, which I'll go into in a moment, and then the CA vendor MOA. So the MOA part of it, make sure you read, sign, and return that to us as soon as possible, because this is a mandatory requirement to be a part of the Army CA program. The idea is to make sure that we're not allowing our soldiers to pay out of pocket, if at all possible. So by you being a part of this process, by you reaching out and wanting to be a part of the Army Ignited program, we can help keep our soldiers from having to pay money out of pocket and having to reach into their pockets to pay for this training. Cage code, this is not provided by us, it's provided through sam.gov. You can go there and get your cage code and your expiration date. We will tell you that the normal time frame for it is usually around anywhere between 2 weeks to maybe a month and a half for them to get back to you. We have no control over that, but this is a mandatory requirement to be able to be a part of the Army CA program. All right, so let's get ignited here. And again, this is the section that I'm going to pass over, but the first part of it there, you will still log in to www.armyignited.com and click the Get Started button. There'll be some new processes in there on how you need to do it, but you still will need to log in using login.gov. If you already have a login.gov account, please use that account that you already have. No reason to reinvent the wheel. If you are a government employee, you're going to select the government employee ID as your authentication method. And if you're a non-government employee, you're going to select the phone method for authentication. Once you've created your login.gov account, you'll be directed back to the Army Ignited application. And you're going to click Request Vendor Account. And again, this is where we're going to put some of that new information for you. So I'm going to bypass this one, because there's some things here that are going to change for now. There's a resource section and remedy line that we have that's available for you. The remedy line number is located right there. And also on the Army Cool webpage, there's also a link to be able to see the vendor CA process guide for any of you who may need it. Now, speaking of Army Cool, some of you may have been involved with the other services and their Cool program. The Army program is a little bit different. Whereas the Army Cool program itself is a repository for all of the credentials that the soldiers are eligible to pursue. However, when they're ready to do the payment side of it, they will come through the Army CA side and Army Ignited, and that's where they submit their request for payment. So just remember, the two are separate, but the credential must be listed on Army Cool in order for you to align your application to it on Army Ignited. So we're going to start here with part 1. And this is mainly your general information, but this is all required information, i.e. your vendor name, your URL, your address, city, state, zip, country, and how many years you've been in business. You have to have been in business a minimal of 2 years to be a part of the Army Ignited and Army CA program. There's no waiver to that. It is a requirement. So if you're at that 18-month mark, you may have to wait just a little bit longer. But once you hit that 2-year mark, please reach out to us and we'll be happy to help you out. And we will verify this against your cage code number that's provided in sam.gov. In January of this year, we also put it onto the application where you can now provide a main POC. And that main POC is going to be the individual who you want us and the soldier to be in contact with. So in the event you sent an application and it was rejected, that primary vendor POC that you see right there is the individual that we are going to contact. So if you don't want it to be the person that it's showing up to be, please make sure that when you're reviewing your account, you put that right individual in there so that individual gets the email traffic from us. Part 2 goes over some of the payment requirements. And we'll go ahead and slide over here. You'll see items such as your federal tax ID, your cage code, and expiration date there. There's some mandatory questions here that have to be approved by one of those being funding exams together with training is not authorized unless the exam is free, and I'll go over that a little bit later. Payments will only be made by the finance department via government credit card, so you have to accept credit cards. Access will make the payments on behalf of the soldiers. You have to comply with that. And then at the end of the day, making sure that you comply with the refund policy. Also, you'll see on here there is a POC for the primary POC payment and then the alternate POC for payment. So you can fill out 2 separate individuals there. You can also make sure that that primary individual is different from the person on the main POC contact, or if you want them to be one and the same, you're more than welcome to do that as well. Part 3 talks about the certificate of completion, the accreditation markings, and I'll go over that here shortly. Your URLs and files, stats on successful completions, and stats on students hired after completion for your courses. This top item here, the certificate of completion, another mandatory item for Army CA. That certificate of completion can be anything from an email with your information on it, your letterhead on it, stating that individual has completed such course on this date, or it could be as detailed as actually creating a nice little certificate in Adobe and sending that to us. It's totally up to you how you like to do that, but that is a mandatory requirement. Down below that, you'll see the accrediting bodies and approving authorities. If you are not accredited or approved by any of these parties here, that is okay. You are more than welcome to hit no here. If you are, then hit yes. That just helps us with stat information. And then down below that, you'll see there's 3 sections here. One, again, is providing a syllabus of what courses are going to be offered. You can upload that there. Provide stats to show how many students have taken the course if you have that available. If you don't, that's not a showstopper. And same thing with stats on members being hired. We will tell you that it is highly important that each one of those vendor URL boxes are filled out. So you put your company's URL in each one of those boxes, because we found that that actually helps when trying to save your application. If those boxes aren't filled, your application may not save correctly and may get kicked back to you. So just to help you out in the long run, put those URLs in there. Part 4 has 2 different sections of it. We're going to go over screen 1 at this time. It talks about adding the training name, if it's a training or exam, the certification that it's tied to, if it's online or in person, and what the location is for it. And you can see this right here as an example of it. Again, this item right here where it says associated credential name, that comes directly from Army Cool. So if you've got a program that you're offering and you're trying to add it on there and you don't see that credential there, on the Army Cool website under the contact link, there is a section on there for you to submit for a certification or licensure to be reviewed. This is not a guarantee that it will show up on the site, but it is an opportunity for that credential or licensure to be reviewed and vetted and see if it meets the requirements based on DoD requirements for being approved on the Cool sites. Screen 2 will show you the cost type, the item name, the item provided by vendor, yes or no, the number or ISBN, the cost quantity, and the URL. Now, before I was talking to you about adding exams and not adding them on training items unless they're marked as $0. Here's what we mean. When you do your application, and you'll see this in the examples coming up here, you're going to want the total cost of everything at the very top. If there is an exam voucher included in this bundle, you're going to mark it as yes, provided by you, and then you're going to put the cost as $0 because the total cost is going to be listed up there at the very top. Here's an example of just doing an exam by itself. And again, there's that new box that pops up there for the URL. Again, put your company's URL. Anywhere it says URL, if it's your company, put it in there. I'll show you where to put different URLs here in just a moment. But you can see this is for the Senior Human Resources Management certification. And it is provided by this vendor. It's $300 and quantity of one, and the URL box is right there. Here's an example of a training and exam together like we were talking about. So the total cost is in that top line there. And then in the second line, you see where it's exam, yes, provided by the vendor, and the cost is $0.00. Here's an example of an item that is required for the training course, but may not be provided by you, i.e. it may be a book that the member has to go on Amazon to pursue or something like that. Again, that total cost is going to be up there at the top, but if the item is not provided by you, this is for books, study material, prep material, etc. But this does not apply to the exams. If you mark no here, you can put the cost there. You can put the ISBN number with it. And there's also a box right below there on each one for the URL. So if you found this cost on Amazon, you can take that URL from where you found it on Amazon, copy it, and paste it into that URL box so the soldier knows exactly where they need to go to look for it. Here's an example of a Class A CDL. Again, total cost is at the top at $4,000. They offer the book, the application fee, which is the DOT physical, and then the drug test. All of that has a cost of $0 attached to it. Now, we've seen this one quite a bit with our private pilot, commercial pilots, our guys that are testing through the FAA. So this is one that we wanted to add on here as well because there was some miscommunication regarding the FAA check ride, which is an exam. A lot of vendors did not provide this, but they were marking it as no and putting a cost on here. You can't do that. If you provide the exam, then again, mark it as yes and put the cost as $0. If you do not provide the exam, just don't put it on there. That lets the soldier know that they need to go to another vendor to be able to take that portion of their certification. So some important takeaways from part 4. Again, this is probably the most difficult section that we've seen from any of our vendors. Thus the reason why we created these trainings. Bundling is okay for training and exams as long as the exam cost is $0.00. If you don't offer the exam, don't list it on your application. It'll make the process a lot easier for you. Non-exam items can be listed as not provided, and there can be a cost associated with those. Our soldiers are only allotted $4,000 per fiscal year, so we ask you to phase the cost, and here's why, and here's what we mean by phasing. Like I said, that soldier can only go for a credential name one time. So if you list private pilot's license and you list it for $12,000 and you don't break it down, then that soldier is only going to get $4,000 to cover that $12,000, and the rest of it they're going to have to try to figure out how to get funded for. However, if you were to set that up and say, okay, this is private pilot license phase 1, private pilot license phase 2, private pilot's license phase 3, each one was $4,000 to meet that $12,000 requirement, then the soldier could go back and select those different phases for them to be able to complete that training. So again, this is to help them out and also to give an extra boost for them to be able to complete that credential. Keeping up with the application, like I mentioned earlier while we were talking about the MOA, we are doing an annual review. We just finished it last year for the current vendors. The next review will be in January, February timeframe of 2022. Unless a vendor has items that are being added to the program, not updating price, just adding new items to the program, and they can let us know that at least 90 days prior to the change taking place. And again, the costs on the application are expected to match the prices on the itemized quotes. At the end of the day, this is what you're doing. You're helping our soldiers be better at the jobs that they're doing. You're giving them skill sets to be able to think outside of the box and to be productive members of society once they transfer out of the military, so that on day one, when they hit the civilian sector, they know what their civilian counterparts know. Their resume reads as their civilian counterparts' resumes will read, because those employers will understand those necessary certifications and licensures that are required to obtain that job. Helping our service members get jobs, helping them be beneficial, and helping them be productive. So we've gone over the invite email, the 4 different parts of the application, keeping up with the application, and then at the end, how you help our soldiers. Are there any questions from anyone in the field? And again, thank each and every one of you for jumping on with us today. We greatly appreciate all of you being here with us. If anyone wanted to ask a question, or you can type it in the box and we can answer them there, either way.
So one of the questions, Russell, was can they get a copy of the Q&As, or basically can they get a copy of the Q&As? So Miss Reynolds Middleton, are you asking about what's in the chat box?
That's correct, yes.
Oh, okay.
So this is being recorded. So the items in the chat box should show up in the recording as well. And I'll make sure before I stop the recording, I go back to the top here and I'll slowly scroll down so you can see what questions were asked in the chat box, if that helps you out.
That's helpful, thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other questions out there for us today? Well, outstanding. Before we go, Sophia, do you have anything for the group?
Well, actually, I just want to say first, Russell, you did an outstanding job. Thank you. And I really am glad that everyone joined in today to try to figure out how to become a vendor. I know that, there's a lot of confusion right now with all of the stuff that's going on. If you are an EI currently attending this briefing, there's a lot of confusion because of TA going live and so forth. So we are 2 separate programs, 2 separate MOA and MOU, MOUs that have to be signed. Things are different. The way you will create your application is going to be different than the way things are done on the TA side. But just know that if you are wanting to become a vendor for the CA program, just this course right here or this training that he gave, that is how you'll start. And as we continue, once we get you onboarded and everything, there'll be a lot more information that you'll be provided. We just got to get you through this first hurdle, which is onboarding you into the system. So thank you very much. Please don't hesitate to reach out and ask questions if you get stuck somewhere. And I think Russell already mentioned it, but Army Ignited is best used in Chrome or Edge, right? Those are the 2 ways. If you try using Internet Explorer, there should be a pop-up block that will tell you, nope, don't do it because you're not going to see everything. So just keep that in mind.
Firefox too.
Oh, right. And then some people are able to use in Firefox. I myself, I can only use Edge. That's the only way things will populate. But on other computers, it works best, other ways. The process for signing in, that is going to change, or creating your account. It has changed. It will be different on the 8th of March. Some of you might have created one, so you'll be fine. If you didn't create one, there will be a new process. Right now, I'm in the process of creating new step-by-step slides for how to create your account in Army Ignited. When that is complete and I have all of the little pieces that I'm missing, I will be posting that to Army Cool. Anytime you ever have questions, please go, or about like, hey, what step am I in or whatever. You can always go to Army Cool on the Credentialing Assistance tab. If you get there, Army Cool Credentialing Assistance tab is on the black bar, kind of towards the bottom. Click on that. All of the policy information, step-by-step guides, brochures, all of that stuff is listed on that page. So please feel free to go there. And that's all I have. Thank you, Russell.
Thank you, ma'am. Wendy, Dottie, anything from you ladies?
Doesn't look like anything else, so you're good on my end.
All right.
I don't
well,
have anything, so thank you.
All right, awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you back 12 minutes of your time. So thank you so much for being a part of this today. At this time, I'm going to stop the recording. Anyone who wants to
Don't stop yet.
So I'm
Remember
not going
to
to stop the recording.
remember to go into the chat box.
Right.
Oh yeah, I did. I did that while you were talking.
Oh, sorry. Thanks.
Yeah, I scrolled through the chat box while you were talking.
Awesome.
Outstanding.
Anyone else have anything else for us? Well, thank each and every one of you for joining us today. Thank you for all you do for our soldiers and for helping make the United States Army and our civilian sector just a little bit stronger. We look forward to working with you and seeing your applications come through on the 8th of March when the system comes back up. Thanks again.